Patriot Come Lately show. This is Stefan, your Patriot Come Lately, the voice of the Second American Revolution. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever or wherever you are listening. As someone who came to America to escape from the socialist nightmare, I am using this show to shake America awake. Join me in the next hour for constitutional conservative news and views, as well as the occasional guest. We have to rebuild that shining city on the hill by taking this great country back to the principles set forth by the founders.
And this is Stefan, your Patriot Come Lately, British by birth, American by choice, welcoming you to episode 276 of Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is a slightly belated show today due to being in a different time zone and being on vacation. I wasn't able to record the show, broadcast it last night as I normally do at its normal time, so my apologies to my listeners who come in and listen to the live show, but I know most of my listeners listen to either the recordings or to the rebroadcasts on Red State Talk Radio or the 405 radio, and this is being recorded just a little bit later than normal and should go out as normal on those two great networks. So this show is entitled In Cheese Country. I am still in the PCL mobile studio, but by now we've moved up to Milwaukee. We're just outside Milwaukee, where I'm participating in the annual meeting of my Classic Cars National Club. Regular listeners will know about a year ago I acquired an old vehicle, one which was actually about 3 months older than I am, and I joined the club. There are a couple of them actually for that particular make. It's a 1951 Oldsmobile, and the Oldsmobile Club of America are having their annual meeting here in Milwaukee this year, so that's why we're up here. On our way up here, we stayed a few days in northern Indiana, so shortly after my show from Kentucky last week, we moved up to northern Indiana, and we found that in some ways it's very similar to Pennsylvania. They had where we were staying was right in the middle of large communities of Amish and Mennonites, so every day we were treated to the clip-clop of the Amish buggies as they passed by on the campsite. It's very nice there, people very friendly, and I do have to say that Indiana seems to be a lot less hard hit than Kentucky was. But anyway, let's go on with the news. And do want to talk about Trump. I know there's a lot on all the lamestream and other talking head channels. He continues to be quite the shock jock, although he did offer sort of an apology on O'Reilly's I think a day or two ago, as well as on Fox and Friends this morning, concerning what he had said about Senator McCain. Now, there are two unfortunate things with that whole thing. First of all, what Trump said about McCain in the first instance, allegedly that he was not a war hero, that was totally misreported by the LSM and repeated by all sorts of people, obviously anxious to kind of pull the rug from under Mr. Trump. What he actually said was researched and documented very clearly by Cheryl Atkinson. Now, if you can, go and Google her and Google her latest blog posting, because she states very clearly what he said. And basically, in just a very few words, he did originally say, well, he's not a war hero. Frank Luntz challenged him on that, and he said, well, he is a war hero, but not in a good way because of his capture. He did walk it back, and after that initial brush, 4 times after that, he did say, yes, actually he is a war hero. And he also said that to O'Reilly. But secondly, and this is also confirmed by Cheryl Atkinson, because although he sort of apologized, he also continues to attack McCain, and he's attacking McCain on his record, and he is, in that respect, he is absolutely right on his record in the Senate. Just because you're a war hero doesn't make you a good senator, and McCain has been pretty bad. Especially, and this is one of the things that Donald picked up on, as chairman of the Armed Services Committee of the Senate, basically he runs the oversight of the VA system. Now this is a totally corrupt and inept organization. So the oversight that from the Senate ought to have picked up on this and sorted it out. Well, of course, Trump puts the message out there, but because of all the noise around it, the message is getting lost, because that's really the message, that McCain is a bad senator, hasn't done well by the veterans, and hasn't done well by the country and all sorts of other things. He was also involved with that immigration law that they were trying to get through, which was an effective amnesty. I think Obama would be glad to have that law right now, because that would legalize all the illegal things that he's doing. But anyway, so Trump gives the right message, but because of the shock way that he does it, of course there's a lot of noise generated around it, and the message gets lost. The noise is being generated not just by those on the left and the lamestream media, but also those on the right. And I think on the right, it's especially those who are far behind Trump in the polls and would love for him to be forced out, because that would mean that would take, he's taking away a lot of the oxygen in the room that would provide them with more opportunity to get money and to get votes. But I think he's staying in for the moment, and he seems to be staying at the top of the polls. Now, the most recent one that they had, which was actually, I think, taken just before or just around the time of the latest Senator McCain remarks, had him on a national poll of Republican and Republican-leaning voters, had him 10 points ahead of his nearest competition. So I mean, he's really out there in front and on top of everything. So anyway, we'll have to wait and see what happened with the next poll, see if this has hurt him or not, see if the message is coming through, see whether or not his apology has worked. Now, in the meanwhile, let's go to some other news. Well, news. This was something from now my new hometown again, Atlanta. The Atlanta chapter of the NAACP has decided that they want to have the Civil War generals, the Confederate generals that have been carved out of Stone Mountain, they want them to be removed. And when I first heard this, I thought, well, this is PC gone wild, even more than we've had before. But then I thought, this is actually getting into terrain, and maybe this is a Trumpism, maybe I'm pushing things a little bit here, but I think the NAACP who are destroying temples and churches and other historical artifacts in the museum, all because they're not part of their religion, their ideological religion. And NAACP is wanting to do the same thing. And now I also heard someone else said, well, no, let's put some people like Martin Luther King, let's have them etched into Stone Mountain as well. Well, I guess you could do that, but you can't hide history. You can't shove it under the rug and pretend it wasn't there. These things happened, and Stone Mountain's been a part of history now, and the Confederate generals that were carved into it were part of history. Like it or not, it was a bad time. Civil War was primarily fought over slavery, agreed, but by trying to eradicate all traces of it, and the same goes for the flag, by trying to eradicate the traces of it, it's not going to make it go away. It happened, it was there, and I think trying to get rid of these carvings is really it's really crazy. Let's talk about what happened in Chattanooga, and that was very sad. 5 military people killed. They're still trying to work out, because there are all sorts of claims that this guy had no connection whatsoever to Islamic extremism. But I think it's very strange that a Muslim goes out and targets American military in Ramadan, when ISIS were calling for people to go and kill American service people during Ramadan. That's a special time. If you die in battle while it's Ramadan, that's supposedly even better. Maybe you get 80 virgins instead of 72. I don't know. But there's a lot of things trying to say, well, he was depressed and this, and really trying to, take away from the fact that, and sort of minimize the fact that he might have been influenced by Muslim extremism, and just sort of say, well, no, he's just a nutcase. Of course, it was really kind of you could tell from the White House how they think about it, because remember, it took them 2 hours to get their rainbow lights on when the Supreme Court had that decision, but it took them 5 days to lower the flag to half-mast for these 5 killed soldiers. So you know where King Barry's heart is. And actually, with it being the end of Ramadan, Obama always issues a statement from the White House, and so if you're sort of thinking, well, is Obama a closet Muslim? I don't know. What's very interesting, and this was written on the White House website for everybody to see, Obama publicly thanking Muslims for building the very fabric of our nation. Right, and this was a statement that he issued to mark the end of Ramadan, and if he wants to do that and be diverse and all these things the lefties want to do, well, that's up to him. But just I just don't understand. I mean, I'm at a loss for words. Here's a quote from the White House statement. In the United States, Eid al-Fitr, which is the end of Ramadan, reminds us of the many achievements and contributions of Muslim Americans to building the very fabric of our nation and strengthening the core of our democracy. Well, folks, I don't know what core of our democracy they're actually building, because after the break I'm going to tell you about some of the things they did do and how they contributed to our to building the fabric of our country, but it's not in a very positive way, believe me. Okay, folks, I'll be back right after these messages.
You can lose 10, 20, 30 pounds or more with Maximum Slim's first ever rapid weight loss guarantee. Today, you get Maximum Slim, an advanced fat and carb blocker, absolutely risk-free. The all-natural ingredients in Maximum Slim are a powerful weight loss combination. The Maximum Slim formula turns your body into a fat-burning furnace that supercharges your weight loss. Advanced fat and carb blocker stops the breakdown of sugar so your body doesn't store it as fat. Today, you'll get both of these products absolutely risk-free with no obligation. Only pay shipping. There are no expensive meal plans or exhausting DVDs. Just take Maximum Slim twice a day. It's fast, simple, and now it's guaranteed. Look, you can start losing weight today or not. Go back to your high school days and wear your favorite jeans again. Guaranteed. Call now and get both weight loss formulas free. Call 800-451-0228. 800-451-0228. That's 800-451-0228.
Doc, you gotta give it to me straight.
All right.
'Cause I'm dying here. I mean, take a look at this letter from the IRS.
Oh, my.
This is killing me, Doc. I tell you, it's killing me.
Cheer up, my friend.
Huh?
The tax doctor is here. My diagnosis tells me that you're going to be just fine.
Really?
The tax doctor will not rest until we find you the best possible tax settlement.
Really, Doc?
Guaranteed.
If the IRS claims you owe them $10,000 or more in business or personal back taxes, call a tax doctor right now. We could save you up to 75% if you qualify. Guaranteed or you pay nothing. Call right now for free details.
800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. That's 800-917-8546.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And thanks for sticking with me through that break. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, and just reminding me, if you want to contact me, send me an email, stefan@patrickcomelately.us. Or you can go to the website www.patrickcomelately.us, click on the contact button, it'll open up a little form, type in your comments, questions. I love hearing from my listeners, and I will reply to you if you send me an email or if you use the contact form, and I will also try and use your questions, comments in a future show, so you will get, two swipes for the price of one. Anyway, we were talking about this statement that was released from the White House, and it's similar in wording to statements that have been released in the past, right? In the United States, Adolf Hitler also reminds us of the many achievements and contributions of Muslim Americans to building the very fabric of our nation and strengthening the core of our democracy. Well, let's not forget, Islam is a religion which is also an ideology, a political movement. It is both religion and political, and on its political side it is definitely not a democracy. But anyway, but the fabric of our nation, well, if you go back and research into that, and there are people who have done that, and one of the things they found that the first real contribution that any Muslim made was in 1856, 80 years after the founding, when the Secretary of War, Jefferson Davis, hired one Muslim to help train camels in Arizona. The plan was to fight Native Americans that were in that area via camelback, but it was very soon dismissed. It was just not doable. But there is one area where Muslims did have an influence, and that was not in helping us build the fabric, but it was helping us, but it was encouraging us to build the fabric of our country, and that was because we were fighting the Muslims as an enemy. After independence, the UK, Britain, obviously no longer protected American ships. Before then, they were British ships, but once America was independent, the British said, "You're on your own, folks." France, also disappointed because the US did not help France back in its war against the British, even though the French helped us, we didn't help them back. So they also said, well, we're not going to protect American ships either. And this resulted in American ships being raided and plundered by the Barbary Coast pirates. Now, of course, they're Muslims, so one way you can stop them is to buy them off. So the United States paid 10% of the new nation's very low, very almost nothing GDP, but still 10% would have been a huge amount for the country at that time, in exchange for passage. But they paid the money, and the attacks continued. So Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, and Benjamin Franklin were sent to Tripoli as representatives to mediate the problem. It was there that they discovered the Islamic law that the pirates followed that made it their duty to attack non-Muslims. They spoke with an ambassador who answered to them that the right was founded on the laws of the Prophet, that it was written in their Quran that all nations all nations who should not have answered their authority were sinners, that it was their right and duty to make war upon them wherever they could be found, and to make slaves of all they could take as prisoners, and that every Mussulman who should be slain in battle was sure to go to paradise. This is what Jefferson wrote back to the Secretary of State John Jay, explaining that peace was not possible. Ben Franklin wrote his own notes, saying, "Nor can the plundering of infidels be in that sacred book, the Quran, forbidden, since it is well known from it that God has given the world and all that it contains to his faithful Muslims, who are to enjoy the right of it as they conquer it." And John Adams, in his report, wrote of the Muslim prophet Muhammad and called him a military fanatic who denies the laws that were made for him. He abrogates everything to himself by force of arms. So this was going on in the early 1800s. By the time Jefferson became president, the Barbary Coast pirates were extorting 25% of US GDP, and the attacks were still occurring. So Jefferson signed a war powers request which launched the US's entire naval fleet to wage war on the Barbary pirates, and that's where the US Marines were born. And of course that's remember, that's part of their song, "From to the Shores of Tripoli." Jefferson saw the fleet off. He waved them off, ordering the US sailors to chase the pirates all the way to Tripoli, and that of course gave rise to that famous verse in the US Marines anthem. So we showed them force, and that did help reduce the attacks on our ships. We appeased, kowtowed, gave them what they asked for, money, and the attacks didn't stop. Sound familiar, Caliph Hussein? Why don't you follow that? But folks, it's not surprising. Let's move on. Another little. I'm not sure whether this is real or whether it is a Photoshop, and unfortunately with Photoshop today it's so easy to do these things, but the fact that it doesn't surprise me is really kind of telling, so that it could be true. But there is a picture going around that shows Michelle texting while people behind her are standing with their hands over their hearts. So either the national anthem or the picture, the caption on the picture actually says the Pledge of Allegiance was being recited. I don't know. There's a thing a little bit on there showing that it came from a CNN TV picture, but I'm not sure. But again, as I said, it's not so much whether or not it's a fake or not. But just the fact that we even think that, well, even if, that there is a slight possibility that that could be true, just shows really what kind of people we have there in the White House. Okay, folks, time for another topic. And what I want to do now is just show why, and we know things are going wrong under Obama, but let's look here at another country. It's a progressive paradise. Let's listen to some of the things they have there. Public employees get 30 vacation days a year. Anyone who works over 8 hours in a day gets paid time and a half. Employees have strong rights. The minimum wage is high. It's 77% of the median wage. Environmental regulations are settled beyond the pressure of local economic interests. The forests and mountains are pristine destinations for ecotourism. Energy costs are kept high, pushing consumption down to a level deemed socially beneficial, in quotes. Utilities have strong public backing and provide jobs to thousands. Union jobs in shipping are protected from outsourcing to cut-rate foreign competitors. The social safety net is buoyant and provides a solid working-class standard of living. People who are injured can rely on disability insurance to maintain their income. Student-to-teacher ratios are very low, so that every child gets the very best. The flagship research institution is a well-funded public university. Just 10 years ago, the university was linked to downtown and the suburbs by a new light rail line. Best of all, richer people living far away pay most of the taxes. This little paradise has open access to large export markets and is part of a major currency union. So that, this sounds perfect. But, and one more thing, the government borrows at low interest rates and runs large deficits when output is below trend, and does not give up on stimulus after a few years. So, tax and spend. Sounds familiar, right? Well, unfortunately, they're always borrowing at low interest rates because economic output, strangely enough, is always below trend. And this is the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico. They have people in that country have lived through decades of this left-wing utopia, and they are all leaving it. The island's working age population has declined by 100,000 since 2005 as the economy shifted from stagnation, which means slow growth, to depression, which means no growth. In a parallel universe with free markets and low regulation, Puerto Rico could have become the Singapore of the Caribbean. Instead, it's just a progressive hell. It has sizable, educated, bilingual workforce, is a natural hub for regional commerce, and has free access to U.S. markets. So why wouldn't it be that much better? Well, it's just that. The regulation, the taxation, and actually the governor, who is a Democrat, left-wing, he actually commissioned an independent economic report, and they basically went in and said, you're spending too much, you've got to cut regulation, you've got to cut taxation, you've got to have tax reform. They've made a whole pile of recommendations. Of course, the question is, will that happen? They've made recommendations for labor and social reforms, things like that, and also making it easier to do business there. Well, will that work? Will they listen to these experts? We'll have to wait and find out. But it's another example that these progressive policies just don't work. Okay, folks, time for the next break. I will be back in a moment.
Patriot come lately. British by birth, American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
Every day, millions of Americans grow more concerned about the future of our great nation. The truth is, over the last century, a small but powerful collectivist movement known as progressivism has debased our politics, our culture, and our currency. We're just a small step from falling into 1,000 years of darkness, as Ronald Reagan warned. Friend, this is Pat Boone with an important free offer on a hot new book called The Great Withdrawal by Craig Smith and Lowell Ponte. This new book explains how we, the people, can end this fatal detour into big government and get back on the path of faith and freedom charted by our founders. Call now for a free copy of the hot new book called The Great Withdrawal.
Call now for your free copy. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. That's 800-978-3901.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS that you can't pay? Call now for immediate help. At the Tax Relief Line, we help people just like you. If you take on the IRS alone, you could be facing levies, liens, even wage garnishments, personal or business tax issues. If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS, call now and see if you can pay less. They can freeze your bank accounts, even garnish your wages. Call the Tax Relief Line now for immediate help. Our expert team of tax professionals will negotiate your tax problem and deal with the IRS for you. If the IRS is threatening you with levies, wage garnishments, or seizing your assets, call now and see if you can pay the IRS less.
888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043.
This is Patriot Come Lately Talk Radio, keeping the spirit of America alive, a proud member of the Red State Talk Radio Network. And this is Stefan, your Patriot Come Lately, thanking you for listening. Apologies for this week that it's it wasn't broadcast at its normal time, so my regular live listeners missed out, but I know a lot of people listen to rebroadcast, so thank you for listening. Do want to say to you as well, please, if you like the show, please share it with your friends and family. Ask them to listen. If you don't like the show, just share it with your enemies. And a reminder that you can get the show not just from my site radio.patrickcomelately.us, but also from archives.patrickcomelately.us, and also via the rebroadcasts on Red State Talk Radio. Red State Talk Radio now has two channels, Studio A and Studio B, and I believe we are broadcast twice on Studio A and twice a week on Studio B. So do listen there and share that site with your friends as well. There's a lot of very good conservative hosts on there, all spreading the message of conservatism and all that's wrong with the current regime, and hopefully this will encourage people to vote for the right people when the time comes in the upcoming elections, and that's really what it's all about. Okay, before we go into the next topic, I want to go back and look at some things going on in Europe, because I like to say what happens there today is going to happen in our country tomorrow. But before we do that, I do want to remind myself and the listeners of where we are and who we are, and this is a great song to do that. This is I play this quite regularly because I really do like this song. This is Krista Branch with that beautiful song, I Am America.
shame. Your only interest is political gain. You hide your eyes and refuse to listen. You play your games and abuse the system. You stuff your pockets while Rome is burning. I've got a feeling that the tide is turning. I am America. One voice, united we stand. I am America. One hope to heal our land. I will not give up on this fight. I will not fade into the night. I am America. You stuff your pockets while Rome is burning. I've got a feeling that the tide is turning. I am America. One voice, united we stand. I am America. One hope to heal our land. I am America. One voice, united we stand. I am America. One hope to heal our land. I will not give up on this fight. I will not fade into the night. I am America.
And that's that great song, I Am America, by Krista Branch. Remember, if you like the song, you can pick it up at iTunes, or you can buy it at her own website, www.kristabranch.com. Okay, for this section of the show, I wanted to talk about things going on in Europe. Regular listeners to the show will know one of the things I like to do is highlight some things going on in Europe, because we all know what starts there is being brought across here. Look at the socialism that Obama and his friends are trying to force upon us. It's very obviously Euro-socialism, free healthcare and all those things. They all come from Europe. But there are other things which are not so good, which are actually which are a lot worse. So let's have a look at that and see what's in store for us. And the first thing is that with lots of Muslims around here, a lot of the time they decide to enforce their own Sharia law by themselves. And the specific thing that happened in Denmark, where a young lady of 23 was out walking her dog in a park when 4 young Somali men came up to her. They started talking to her, and then they started to attack her. One was kicking the dog, and she said that made her very, very angry. And then another one threw a stone at that hit the dog. While she was trying to protect her dog, she herself was beaten up by the gang. They beat her to the ground, started kicking her, and then pushing her to a pond that was nearby. So she lay there in the pond, in the mud, while they threw more stones at us. And then they just grinned at her and ran off. The lady herself was then helped by an elderly woman to get out from the water. She actually has published a video on Facebook where she talks about this violent attack. So if you don't believe it, go check it out on Facebook. Her name is Sarah Illum Lund Jensen. Illum is spelled I-L-L-U-M. Sarah Illum Lund Jensen. And you can see. But these are the sort of things. So because dogs are seen as an unclean animal for Muslims, they decide that they can do bad things to dogs, and it doesn't matter, because that's their law, and their laws apply above our laws. the UK has run into the same problem. In the UK, they wanted to increase security on railways and tubes, and so they have the transport police. They're called. They're a special police department that are responsible for the transportation, railways and tubes and things. And so they decided, because it wasn't practical to have everybody go through airline style gates and have the baggage scanned, etc., they decided what they would do. They would use sniffer dogs to look for explosives. But now they're getting complaints from Muslim passengers because, as I said before, Muslims see dogs as unclean animals, and so it's against their religion. A report to the Transport Department has raised the prospect that the animals should only touch passengers' luggage because it is considered more acceptable. But banning them from touching passengers would severely restrict their ability to do their job. Yeah, because if someone's wearing an explosive vest, what's going to happen there? So, this is crazy. They did try using things like scanners, but of course they got complaints from female Muslims, because they say that these body scanners are unacceptable because it is tantamount being forced to strip. Now the transport police have insisted they're going to continue to use sniffer dogs with any passengers regardless of faith, but handlers would remain aware of cultural sensitivities. Well, we'll see how long that lasts, because as soon as they start whining, someone's going to do something. Thank you, Euro. Socialism. Critics say the complaints are just more examples of minority religions trying to force their rules and morals on British society. And I think I mentioned last week about the Sharia court judge who says polygamy should be possible because that's part of Muslim law, and in Britain polygamy is against the law, but they're saying no, because it's part of our religion, it should be allowed. Well, anyway, thank goodness there is a Tory MP, as right-wing as they get in that part of the world. As far as I'm concerned, everyone should be treated equally in the face of the law, and we cannot have people of different religious groups laying the law down. I hope the police will go about their business as they would do normally. And let's face it, folks, how many non-Muslim people have blown themselves up in restaurants or railway stations or whatever recently, right? So are we being insensitive to Muslims if we do subject them to these checks? We may be insensitive to them, but it's something we have to do because of others in their religion, and unless they speak out very loudly against it, we will continue to have to do that. Okay, folks, I see the clock is ticking. It's time for our final commercial break. Hang in there. I'll be back.
If you're diabetic, this message could change your life. Is your blood sugar out of control even when you do all the right stuff? Are you afraid of diabetic blindness and the risk of amputation, as well as all those other side effects? Well, you should be. Is there anything that could help manage your blood sugar? Nobetes is a natural supplement that may quickly and dramatically lower your blood sugar.
My name is Bob Corder. I've been using Nobetes for about 3.5 to 4 months now, and in the first 3 months, I've actually lowered my blood sugars from 500s down to 139, and then it dropped to 88 to 93.
My name is Kirsten. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and while taking Nobetes, my blood sugar levels dropped from 295 to 115 in just 1 day.
The FDA hasn't evaluated these statements, and Nobetes isn't intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. But for many, it's helped drop their blood sugar. So if you've been evaluated with high blood sugar, don't delay. Evaluate Nobetes now. Call 800-424-3790 and get 2 bottles free. Just cover shipping and handling. Call 800-424-3790. That's 800-424-3790.
The offer of a franchise can only be made through delivery of a franchise disclosure document. Imagine yourself being a leader in America's fastest growing demographic category. More than 10,000 people a day turn 65, and a large percentage are going to need a helping hand at home or in choosing the right assisted living community. Always Best Care is looking for people who've excelled at everything they've done, but they're seeking a new challenge. Always Best Care is one of the fastest growing companies in this explosive field. We're looking for 25 new franchisees to keep our booming business growing. We'll back you up with the strongest award-winning marketing program in the industry, and we'll provide the special training and support that's fueled our growth to prepare you for this great opportunity. All that's missing is you. Call Always Best Care toll-free at 1-800-643-7508. That's 1-800-643-7508. For Always Best Care, 1-800-643-7508. Call today.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And folks, this is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately. We're into the final segment of the show. Just another couple of topics I'd like to touch on. And let's... new topic. I do want to talk a little bit about the foreign policy achievements of the White House. And basically, if we go back and have a look at them, these are wins for Putin, Castro in Cuba, and now, of course, the mullahs in Tehran. Caliph Hussein and the Secretary of State, John Kerry, are trumpeting their history-making qualities of the proposed Iran deal. Well, one thing they've got right. The deal does make history. It moves things profoundly away from the way that America dealt with the dictatorial regimes in the past. And in this case, Iran, the largest state sponsor of terrorism on the planet, it rewards them with hundreds of billions of dollars through sanction relief, and it'll allow them to conduct business as usual, and they give up nothing in return. The sanctions Iran has been living under are not just some arbitrary measures that were put in place just because. No, these are things that were passed by Congress and were approved by the UN Security Council that included China and Russia. Now that we're going to lift the sanctions, that means they're going to be able to fund a new Iranian revival, and they will be able to fund more of the terrorist organizations like Hezbollah and Hamas, and in Iraq it's just really crazy. Now remember, this regime violently suppressed democratic tendencies that were exhibited by its own citizens. Remember the Green protests of 2009, the Student Revolution of 1999. It does nothing to bring Iran to account for its imprisonment of US citizens and journalists. We've got the pastor, the former FBI and DEA agent Robert Levinson, the US Marine veteran Amir Hekmati, and the Washington Post bureau chief Jason Rezaian. They can continue to sit in Iranian prisons, and we haven't done anything about it. And it was really, they were being held hostage, like the mullahs held the hostages after the fall of the Shah, to get us to lift sanctions. But now that we've lifted them, are they going to be released? And why have Obama and Kerry failed to fight for the release of these people? Or are they doing it behind the scenes? Right? When Ronald Reagan traveled behind the Iron Curtain, he made it a point to speak to human rights activists. He supported them. But Kerry just meets with the people who sponsor terrorism and doesn't meet with people that could be against this, the terrorism and the sponsorship of terrorism. And after the deal is struck, he mentions human rights abuses as something they would like to have, but it's not part of the negotiation. That's really throwing in the towel. So we have to remember, of course, that Kerry is another one of these globalist world government people who really thinks the UN should govern us, and they're signing away more and more power to the UN in the same way that our Congress has signed away power to the executive, which they should never have done. So they think that Obama thinks that he's leaving a legacy behind. I don't think he is. I think he's really leaving us a nightmare behind and not a legacy. But we'll see what will happen. Let's see. I don't think I have time for unfortunately for another topic. I was going to talk about the Obamacare cooperatives, health insurance cooperatives that are paying millions to executives, either openly or, but in most cases, hidden in the form of consulting fees and things like that, so they can say these are non-profit cooperatives. And but anyway, I'll save that for another week. And yes, a few other topics I want to talk about, but as the clock is ticking, I do want to remind you, if you will have comments or questions about the show, please contact me, stephan@patrickcomelately.us or www.patrickcomelately.us. For the latter, the www site, just go there and there's a contact form. For the first one, send me an email, comments, questions. Love to hear from you. And as always, remember, please share information about the show with your friends, family, enemies. We need to get the message out there as much as possible, and whether you like someone or not, we definitely need to get the message that conservatives need to be voted for, and we need to know why we are voting for them. We have to see the excesses of the current government, the regime, the bureaucracy that they've built, and we need to get rid of those bureaucracies, the regulations and things like that. All have to go, and we can only do that if we get a true government of conservatives voted in and with power, not just in the executive but also in the legislative side. So folks, I see it's time.
If you're diabetic, this message.
It's time for the music to start. So I'm going to say TTFN, and please join me again next week, hopefully at the right time again.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the Patrick Come Lately Show. Please take what you have learned and share it with friends and family. Better still, tell them about the show so they can listen too. Remember to support the advertisers on the show. It helps keep this show on the air, and I thank you for that. I'm looking forward to joining you on the next show. Until then, keep spreading our message. Goodbye, and God bless America.